Okay. Hey, Phil. So we are live here. I'm excited. So I think to introduce myself, Andy Buyting with Tulip Media Group, and we do business with client partners all over North America, helping them with their digital and print marketing. And I know Phil likes to start with the best and worst advice that we've ever had that I've ever received. Best advice I ever received from a fellow entrepreneur is if you want it, schedule it. You can create your life by design, and you just need to own it and make it happen. So that's the best advice I ever received. And the worst advice I ever received was somebody told me one time that if you truly want to build a company, you need to do it yourself. And I don't think that's the right advice, because you want to have the right person doing it, and you need to know what you're good at and what you're not good at, and stick in your lane where you are good.
Wow, those
How
are
was that?
two big ones, man. Those are great, Andy. Those are great. So I absolutely see that worst advice shining through over and over again. One of the books that changed my life was Buckingham and Gallup and Don Clifton writing StrengthsFinder, right? Know what you're good at, be really good at that. So I love that.
Exactly.
And I will tell you, man, that plays a lot in your book here. So congratulations on a good book. Double sales, zero salespeople. That's good. That's a lot about that. So before we get started, though, I got to ask, Andy, when did you come to that epiphany, or who shared that with you that, hey, you don't have to do everything by yourself?
It actually was so I'm a big believer in having a coach. Nobody is successful on their own. Everyone you look at any successful person, there's people behind them, supporting them, helping them get there, whether that's an executive coach, you know, peer groups, if you're part of YPO or EO, things like that. And so for me, it was my business coach, and it was interesting because for a long time I had a coach who always said that you need to focus on doing this for your business, you need to focus on doing that, and it never sat well with me. So then I had another coach, a personal business coach, and he's the one who said, and I said, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that. And to share a really personal story, Phil, a lot of people do not know this because this is very new information. But over the last year, I've had a lot of reflection and realized that I'm not a good operator of a company. And the first half of my life, my business career, I've always told myself I'm a good operator. I'm a good operator. But I came to recognize that I'm not a good operator and I need to hire someone else. I'm really good at startups and at getting new concepts up and going. I'll build the car, get it on the track and in the race, but somebody else needs to take the driver's seat. Otherwise, I'll take that car off roading. And I had forever, this one guy was giving me advice. You've got to run this business. You got to scale this business. And I came to the realization that no, I'm actually the wrong person to do that. We've got the car in the race. Somebody else needs to do it. So that's when I came to the realization, is when my personal business coach about a year ago said, why do you think you're good at operations? Wow. Way to hit a guy when he's down. And he said, I think it's your ego. I said, okay, well, let's play with that. So whenever I brought in an operations manager, he said, why not bring in another CEO? I said, well, because I need to be doing there and I need to be the face of the company. And no. That's your ego talking. Know what you're good at, know what you're not good at. And you're really good at startups. You're not good at operations. So yeah, I just recently, like literally the other day, Phil, signed paperwork and we're bringing on a new CEO for Tulip Media September 1. And it's all signed and done. And I'm really super excited. It's been a long time in the making, but that is heeding to bad advice for many years before I realized that it was the wrong advice.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So that's brand new.
amazing.
Yeah. This is the first time I've announced it. I know I'm live on LinkedIn and everything else. Like, it's
Wow.
the first time I'm announcing this.
Wow. So let's unpack that a little bit before we dive in here, Andy, because I think that's powerful, man. That's new to me too. So I was not expecting you to say that at all. So that's so interesting. So you said though it's ego, right, that kept you there. So let's
Ego that
talk
kept
about
me.
that CEO ego, right? Because I think you have to have a healthy ego to even be brave enough to start a business.
Yep.
So talk to me about, like, okay, your business coach is hammering on you, and I would agree, right? If you're not good at operations, if you're not a good operator, you certainly should hire someone. So take me through that conversation internally, man. Like, how long was that, a whole year, or how long do you think that took of you actually hearing it to doing it, and what'd you say?
You know, when I was really challenged, and I just started working with this new coach, and he's really good at what he does, and he could see through the BS really clearly. And it because very quickly, like it was I think it was in our third phone conversation. He said, I've learned about your past. We've talked about that. He said, look at your pattern. You launch a startup, you scale it up to a certain point, and then you typically you take it off-roading. And that's the analogy I always use. And I looked at it and got from advice, and I've been part of different forum groups over the years with EO, YPO. I've started several businesses in my lifetime, and I'm really good at starting them. I'm not good at optimizing them. And so what was interesting, so here was the conversation that was very interesting, Phil, is I have two main partners in Tulip Media Group. I started it, but I brought on two partners early on. I still own the majority of the company, but these two partners, the three of us make up the board. And I went into this board meeting after my conversation with the coach, and I said, okay, I want to talk to you about something. And I have my shareholders hat on. So as a board member, I want to talk to you about the performance of our CEO. And one of my partners said, you're talking about yourself. I said, I know, but I'm not in the seat. I don't have my CEO hat on right now. I have my board hat on right now. I think our CEO is the reason we're not is stifling our growth. We're not growing as fast as we want to. We should be scaling, 50, 100% a year, and we're not doing that. Our CEO is involved in too many different projects. He's involved in another startup. He's not the guy that's going to scale our company like we want it to. And it was a really interesting discussion and a really eye-opening discussion. And it really gained clarity even for myself to say that, yeah, my biggest partner, I've known him for probably 15 years. And he's the one who gave me that analogy. He said, yeah, I've known you, and you're the guy that if we decide to get into the airline business, I'll give you 6 months and you'll have investors lined up. You'll have, 6 747 or 737s ordered from Boeing, and you'll have, gates kind of locked in at 12 different airports. You're that guy, but you're not the guy once it's on the road. And he said, in this case, you built the car, you got it on the track and in the race, and we're doing well. We've got a winning formula, business profitable, and it's growing. But he said, if you don't get someone else in the driver's seat, you look at your history. He said, your coach is right. You look at your history, it's only a matter of time. Think of how many times in the last 2 or 3 years you took this car off roading already, and we had to redirect back onto the track. And I said, yeah, we're absolutely right. That's what it is. I need to get somebody else in the driver's seat. And even just recently, there was another opportunity that popped up this summer, and I was seriously considering it. And after I shared this analogy with my team, one of the young ladies that works with me at Tulip Media, she said, Andy, this kind of feels like off-roading. I said, yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. We got to stop pursuing this opportunity because it just took us down a different business path. So it's been an interesting evolution. So that was about a year ago, and it's just taken a long time to find the right person because we were extremely picky. So I've been probably on a search for our next CEO for the last 9 months, and we just finally nailed him down about 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Well, first of all, congratulations on subsuming your ego. No, I mean, really, right? To swallow your pride and to say, you know what? I'm the guy that's holding us back. I'm the guy that if I get out of the way, we can move forward faster. So congrats on that. Congrats on finding a good CEO, and congrats on empowering your team now to be able to call you out on that and to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we got to make sure that we stay the course here instead of going off-roading. So congrats, man. That's pretty
Yeah.
wild.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
been an interesting journey.
Yeah, no doubt. So speaking of wild, Andy, that sport coat, man. I love it. So where'd you get that? Tell me the story.
So whenever I would do keynote presentations, I used to do a lot of traveling, talking about marketing and marketing strategies and business development strategies and so on. And I always said, with Tulip Media Group, our purpose is, or one of our goals is to make you become the red tulip in the sea of yellow. And I'd have this slide up in my PowerPoint that had this beautiful image of a sea of yellow tulips with one red tulip in it. And I was actually doing a presentation in Houston, and they were not going to let me have, just the way it worked out. There were no visual aids, but there were, a lot of people in the audience. And I think there was 700 people in the audience, something like that. And I said, I have no visual aids. So how do I stand out? And one guy said, oh, you got to get a jacket that will just scream our message. He said, so then we started talking, and we had branded ourselves as Tulip Media just recently. So he said, that tulip, like that one image in your presentation is what everybody always talked about. That's what they remembered. What if you had a jacket that had that image on it? So we literally very quickly we found, because this jacket was created in about 5 days. We found a company that would print. We sent them the exact image. This is the exact image that we use in our presentations and in our marketing. So we sent them that image, had it printed, came back. We had a person that did custom, seamstress, or did custom clothing, and we had it custom made so that I could be on stage with this jacket, and it's been kind of my signature ever since.
Love it. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So that's what it
That is
stands for.
awesome, man. So cool. Well,
And
congratulations.
it's almost as great as your shirt. I mean, the pineapples, I
Thank you.
love it.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Thank you, man. So cool. So, all right. So let's talk about your book, man. So I got to tell you, first of all, I look at the cover, and when I heard about the title, I'm like, no salespeople. I don't
Mhm.
know if I'm going to like this guy at all, because I love sales, man. That's a big thing for me. So double sales, zero salespeople. It's a good book, man. So talk to me about that, Andy. That's an ego thing too, right? Swallowing that and saying, we don't need salespeople. We
Yeah.
can do this without them. Like, talk to me, man. How did that come about?
That came about. I was actually I'm part of a conclave of entrepreneurs that meet in Boston every year for a week of learning. And we've been doing this now for 20 years. We haven't, well, we missed a year. We missed a year during COVID, but anyway, at this conclave, there's actually a mutual friend, one of the guys that's been part of this, by the name of Patty Condon. I actually talk about him in the book and tell his story. He got up and told a story with his company, and he has a high-end home renovation company with offices in Denver, Minneapolis, and Chicago. And he said he did this transformation where, he was tired of dealing with the sales team, was growing more and more difficult. Sales was always blaming marketing for not closing sales or production, and vice versa, and it just created this tough culture. So he made the tough decision to cut his entire sales team and to focus on a different way to go to market, and really working with, using marketing to bring inbound leads, and then having people talk to designers where they can get excited about the colors and the type of crown molding and the countertops and all this type of stuff instead of salespeople. So he spoke, and myself and my two partners in Tulip Media were all part of this conclave. That's how I know my partners. And afterwards I said, oh my God, that hit me like a ton of bricks. So it was a lot of thought, it was a lot of discussions, but a couple of months later, and that's how I open the book, is I tell the story about probably one of the toughest days of my life, but the best day of my life as well. Toughest and best day of my business life is when we made the tough decision. We had a sales team of about 7 people, sales managers, salespeople, doing hundreds of calls a day, logging hundreds of emails, doing the dashboards. We were tracking everything in Salesforce, all of this stuff. And we were always missing our sales targets. And after a lot of consideration, a lot of talk with just my partners, because I didn't want to burden the team with any of this. Obviously, I couldn't. But I walked in one day and we let the entire sales team go, all in one fell swoop, the entire sales team. And I brought the rest of the team together, explained what we did. And at the time I said, I want to migrate to an automated sales process. I believe we can make this work. We know enough about digital marketing. We just need to get fine-tuned in different areas, but this is what we need to do. And again, my team asked me the same question that Patty's team asked him, which was, if we don't have any salespeople, who are going to take those calls? Like who are going to sell? I said, the digital marketers, like you guys that are doing this every day, the production managers, you guys are the ones that can get excited about projects, and you truly understand digital marketing. So you can talk strategy with their potential clients. You're going to be the one taking those phone calls. And, and they say, well, we're not salespeople. We can't close sales. All you do is you get them excited, talk to them, build a strategy with them that they're excited about, and just let them know, we'd love to get started with you. This is how you do it. And that's it. So what's interesting, Phil, is we went from, and then we were going into a quarterly planning session right afterwards, and we were setting quota for new business, close that quarter. And I said, I think we should keep the same quota. And my right-hand person, she banged her hand on the desk. She said, on the table, she said, Andy, don't set us up for failure. She said, we've missed quota with a sales team. We've missed quota for the last 18 months. Like, don't set us up for failure. This is not going to work. I said, it has to work. We had a young intern marketing student that, was really interested because he believed anything was possible. So he was just, we're going to make this happen. So we started trying all kinds of different things on top of what we already knew worked. But for the first time ever, we hit our quota with about 2 weeks left in the quarter with no salespeople. But what's interesting is we went from, because I looked at it, the week before we made that move, we were chasing 178 leads in Salesforce. It went from 178 to 17. We went from chasing 60, it was about 67 opportunities in Salesforce, down to 14. But we started closing more deals because we were no longer chasing people, outbound cold calling, and the leads that they were calling every day in, day out. And we took the whole analogy, you got to touch a person 7 times before they'll reach back out. Well, it's so much easier to grow business when you can build a digital marketing system and process online, where the first time you're interacting with people is when they reach out to us because they want to learn about what we can do for them. And since that day, that was in May, I think it was May 10th, or it was early May 2019, our company has not done one cold call since that day. Not one. We eliminated, because it was a very, very, very expensive way to grow sales. And we eliminated all of that. So now we leverage digital marketing in different forms to bring people onto our website where we convert them. Don Miller's work. We're a StoryBrand certified agency. Our entire agency is certified. And we use that methodology. And at the end of the day, the way I look at it for our own company is I really don't care how much traffic we get to our website. I don't care how many Facebook likes we have or how many people follow us on LinkedIn. I don't care. What I care about is how often does our phone ring? How many times do people fill out contact forms looking for more information? Or how many times do they actually book meetings leveraging Calendly, tools like that, in our production people's calendar? And in our daily huddle, when they wake up and say, last night, 2 more calls. I've got a call at 10 o'clock this morning, and another one at 1:30 this morning or this afternoon with prospects who are interested in what we're doing. That's what I care about. So once we really fine tune that over the next 6 months, we started talking to our client partners about it, and they started just saying, well, whatever you're doing for yourself, that's what we want you to do for us. So we package it, and that's what we've been doing ever since. And it works beautifully. It works beautifully.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so interesting to me because traditionally, right, that's very difficult, right? The phone doesn't ring. Like it's, you can't make it ring. You can't force it
Yeah.
to ring. Now that being said, if they identify with it, if marketing is good, you can get some leads. I totally agree with that, and that's interesting. So, um, you talk in the book though, and this was fascinating to me. You still talk though about you have metrics and you have SEO and you have stuff like that. So, but you don't. So how, that feels disconnected to me, Andy. Help me out here.
Yeah. So when I say I don't care about web traffic, I don't at the end of the day, but it is one of the levers to pull, right? It's one of the things that we look at. So we look at all those things. But what we measure, our measurement of success is conversions. And conversions, like we specialize, the companies that we they're not all B2B, but most of our client partners are B2B. So we specialize in B2B. And the way I would say we conversion is we have them take the call to action because that's what success is. So yeah, we measure all these things, but when we look at our client partner, we have a internal client partner success dashboard, and what it measures is conversions. It measures how many times we make, for client partners, we make their phone ring, contact forms filled out, or Calendly meetings booked in their calendars. Now, we don't advocate. We yeah, we with most of our client partners, they still have a sales team. We just make them a lot more effective. So even though the book says zero sales, or sorry, double sales, zero sales people, that was for us. We don't advocate that for everybody, but we will make your sales team more effective. But that's what we measure. Those are conversions. Those are our measurements of success, and that's what we monitor really closely. We track everything else, but that's the goal. So yeah, all those other metrics are very important, but at the end of the day, it's for the sole goal of getting conversions and having people reach out and, wanting to talk with us instead of us trying to convince them that they should want to talk to us.
Yeah. Well, and then it's also about controlling the controllables, right? I mean, you can control the quality of the content on your website. You can
Yeah.
control that. You can't necessarily make the phone ring, but certainly you know that if you have that, and one of the things that I find interesting about y'all is you have not only do you offer a custom magazine, but you have your own custom magazine. I think that's super interesting. So talk to me a little bit about that, Andy, and how that plays into your whole marketing strategy, as you call it, the sales
Yeah.
marketing smushed together strategy.
Yeah. So, I mean, really quick, what we do and what I think a good marketing program and strategy has four components. And you start in the middle. You start with your website because, if you're running a retail store or opening up a retail store, you wouldn't start advertising and then set up your store. You would set up your store, merchandise your shelves, train the staff, sweep the front doorstep, and then you would start inviting people in when you're ready. But most people think of digital marketing is all about, oh, let's get more people onto our website. You first need to optimize your website, create your storefront online to be one where people will talk and capture the attention of the right audience and will get them to take action. Don Miller talk, you got to tell people where to go and what to do next. Otherwise they won't do it. And most websites miss that. So we spend a lot of time there on the website first. Then we bring people to the website through content marketing, keyword optimized, very strategic content marketing for SEO, and then also through pay-per-click advertising. And oftentimes that's on Google or it's on LinkedIn or whatever the case might be. So we leverage paid advertising and content marketing, bring people on a website to convert them. Now, once you convert them, and that really gets you your new clients. But as we know, it's a lot easier to keep clients or to use referrals to grow your business than it is to find new clients, net new ones. So to engage with them and to optimize referrals, we're a huge fan of leveraging print. And the reason for that is, if I send you something in an email newsletter, or you see something on social media from me, it gets lost in the weeds. It doesn't have a huge amount of value, right? I'm one of probably 27 email newsletters that came in your inbox today. So there, although it can be effective and it should be part of an overall strategy, the bang for the buck, it's really doesn't stand out. So if you truly want to be the red tulip in the sea of yellow, if you give them a magazine or send them a newsletter or something in print where they can hold on to it and look at it, because for instance, our own magazine, this is, our own, when you receive this in the mail, it stands out now because guess what? The most uncluttered inbox that you have is your mailbox. This costs some money to put out, but the way we look at it is working with you. We're already creating articles for blog posts. We're already creating a lot of great content. Let's repurpose that for a little extra time. We can coordinate this for you based on all the content that we have, plus some of our licensed content and so on. And we'll coordinate, put it all together, design it, get it printed and distributed through US Post to your audience. And you only have to do maybe 500 people in your contact list. Send out 500 of those, and all of a sudden, you really stand out, right? You really stand out. And because if you're sending one of these things out quarterly with good information, this is what people hold on to. And one thing that's interesting is Deloitte actually commissioned a study a few years ago, and actually the title of the study was digital is growing, but print is not dead. And one of the things that they found, which is interesting, is that if you're reading business content, 84% of people who consume business content will print it out first if it's sent to them digitally. So they prefer to consume it in print, 84%, which I find very fascinating. And we specialize with B2B companies. And when we send out this magazine, it's a marketing magazine. So all the content is around marketing and business development. Most content's around that. And if I were to send you an article that you thought, oh, this looks interesting, 84% of the time, the audience will print that out anyway before they read it. If you send it to them in print, then this shows that, wow, they're really invested in my relationship with them. They're really, they really value my relationship, and it really kind of gives a lot higher perceived value. In addition, we use it to help our client partners leverage referrals because we really encourage them to do what we do. This front cover, this is Carson Wealth. They're one of our client partners. So we feature our client partners. If you're putting out a magazine or a newsletter in print, especially, feature one of your own clients. Talk about the great things they're doing and talk about how what you're doing, in our case, Tulip Media is doing to help Carson Wealth build their business. And not only instills, loyalty from Carson themselves, but it also, gives, by doing that, it gives, it basically, it's like a testimonial endorsement. It has a lot of good psychological benefits to it, to the reader. It helps establish us as a credible authority.
Well, and you can feel it, right? I mean, that's almost like it's like a physical, almost like a hug, right? I mean, that's pretty powerful, man.
That's right. That's right. So that's why we do that. So those 4 components, paid advertising, content marketing, getting people onto the website, the website itself, and then leveraging that content that we've already created, put it into a newsletter. It takes little extra time. It does take a few dollars to print it and distribute it and so on, but it is by far the best loyalty type of communication program you can do. It's much better than an email newsletter.
Awesome. Love that. That was, I actually wrote that down. That was one of the questions that I was going to ask you. So I love that you brought that up and you showed us the magazine. That's really powerful. I agree that print isn't dead, right? I think books matter. I think magazines are mini books, really. They're maybe a little more there. So one last thing here, Andy, because there's so much in this book that we could dive into about optimizing websites and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk to you, though, about is the onboarding gift, right? How do we sign them up and now what? Because this is often the disconnect. And especially, I might say with salespeople, when they just kind of toss them over the transom, says, "Yep,
Yeah.
okay, not my bag anymore." So let's talk about that onboarding and how you do that, right? So I should just send a bunch of stuff branded with my logo, right? Is that how we onboard, Andy?
I'll take a page out of a good friend of mine, St. Louis, John Rulin. If you haven't, read his book, Giftology, read it, because John, when you think about giving a gift to a client, it's about them. Think about them. So when we send gifts out to clients, it doesn't have our name on it. It has their name on it. We send a welcome package. Somebody signs on, and we send a welcome package with some goods and some treats from our local area, because we're very proud of we're actually located in Canada, so proud of our Canadian heritage. But the box has their logo engraved on it. One of the gifts that we love to give is a Yeti coffee cup. I don't have mine right with me, but we always engrave their name on the side. It's not Tulip Media. So if you're giving out gifts, and it's funny because when I first met John, I was with another buddy of mine who had a company in Phoenix, and he said, "Hey, I want to give you a few gifts. You're the giftology guy." And he gave him all kinds of gifts with his logo on it. And John said, I wonder how many other, backup battery chargers I got from my iPhone with somebody else's logo on it. Like, that's so uninspiring. So when you give a gift, make it unexpected, make it personal, make it custom to them. And John's a big fan, and we've done this many times too. We actually, we have an inventory of Cutco knives. They're $150 knives, like beautiful knives, that when we want to give a gift, we just grab one from our inventory. Down the road, they'll engrave it to, Phil and his family. It has nothing to do with Tulip, but it has your name engraved on the side, and that's what we'll send to you. And that will stand out. And that's something that people will get, and they'll actually bring it home, right? They'll use it. We don't send out a Yeti with your name engraved right on the side and people not use it. But if I looked in your desk drawer, how many, USB sticks do you have with somebody else's logo on it, or pens? Oh my God.
Way too many, right?
Too many. But make it personal to them. And if you can even make it, a step up personal, meaning you learn about them. So the way we institutionalize it inside the company is every week in our weekly meeting, we always ask, okay, who can we recognize this week? And somebody will say, you know what, it's AIM Mutual's 50th anniversary this week. Okay, great. Send them balloons with a big 50 Mylar, it's personal to them. It's meaningful to them. If we hear about somebody going through a rough time, we'll send them a card or send them what's appropriate, but do it that it's personal. So go that extra step, make that gift personal, and really stand out. And when you are bringing on a new client, that's the best opportunity, because if they go into the business relationship expecting it to go well, guess what? Most times it goes well, because they look for ways and reasons why it's going to go well. So in your onboarding, if it is, like you said, the salesperson said, okay, now that's yours, and they feel lost, then there's no handoff, there's no proper handoff, there's no, then, okay, I already don't feel good about this relationship. I'm going to start looking for all the reasons why it's not working. So that's why lavish them with gifts on the way in, love them on the way in. If you need to hand off, like if you need to hand them off to someone else in the company, that's fine, but do a warm handoff and say, Phil, look, I'm going to put you in contact with Erica, and she is the best in the business. She specializes in your industry. Listen, let's jump on a Zoom call. I'm going to jump on there as well, and I want to make that introduction. It's not just, Erica, I want to introduce you to Phil. You're going to take it from here. Phil, meet Erica. She's your new account manager. That's like cold. Don't do that. Make it warm, make it personal, and shower them with gifts if you have the opportunity to do so. And they'll expect the relationship to be great. And that's what they'll start seeing. And it becomes great.
Yeah. Yeah. That connection is what we're trying to build there between sales and marketing and the
And
operator, if you
operations
will,
or
right?
delivery.
Yep.
Yeah.
And everybody who does the work. So Wow, man.
Yeah.
Some great stuff, Andy. So much going on here. I love this. So Andy, if people are going to get started, this is a great primer, by the way. Double sales, zero salespeople. Pick up a copy of the book. It's not exactly what you think. Andy's not saying nobody sells. Let's be clear.
That's right.
Just
That's
no
right.
formal salespeople, right? That's the
That's in
hook
our
there.
case, but yeah, you can double the sales with the same number of salespeople.
Yeah,
If you
that zero
incorporate
new
something.
salespeople, right? You can put a little
That's right.
arrow there. That'll be the next one,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, that's right.
no,
There you go.
right. So
There you go.
so Andy, so if people want to get started though, kind of on this marketing journey, and they want to transition to, let's call it, no new salespeople, no net new salespeople, how do they do that? Where would they get started?
So what I would suggest is we actually have a landing page on our website. It's a good resource to start with, and it's at tm.media/double sales. So tm.media/double sales. And on there, Phil, they can download a chapter from the book. They can buy the book, or there's a link to where to buy the book. And if you want to chat, there's a way there to, you can actually book a half an hour call or Zoom call with myself or my co-author, Jessica. And, reach out there and learn a little bit more. But if you read the book, it's a great way to start and to understand, a good practical way that you can at least get started thinking about how you would strategically start marketing your company, your business, your products, your service. Because most people, marketing is run off the side of the desk. It's not what they live day in, day out, because you're in your business, you're experts in your field. But marketing, in order to grow successfully and efficiently and scale in a scalable manner, you really need to, it is a muscle you need to get good at, either in-house or working with an outsourced company, whatever the case might be. And, you really do need to build that muscle and get that capability inside the company somehow.
Awesome. Love that, Andy. So much goodness there. I'm going to put that up on screen here to get a copy of your book, right? Double sales, zero salespeople. You also offered us tm.media for Tulip Media, right? .media/double sales is another resource. Andy, you've given me so much, man. I so appreciate you. I wish you all the best. I hope this book sells maybe 20 copies, but 20 of the right people buy this book, because it's fantastic, man.
Great.
Congratulations.
That's what matters. It's the right people. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Phil. This has been so much fun. You're a great host.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. Take care. Here we go. And go get the book.